3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Well, hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Dennis and Andy Show for your Wednesday afternoon viewing pleasure. Eric Guapo in the house, Hyper Casual. What is Hyper saying here? I'll have you know I paused X-Men the animated series for this. Well, that is a very smart move because unlike X-Men animated series, there's no pause in this goodness.
There isn't, but you know what? I can't believe you paused it for us. I don't know if I would have done the same. Oh, if it was just Andy, but I understand.
Oh my God. How many times have you seen this episode that you paused? That's the question. That is old stuff. This is brand new stuff. We have a guest today.
We do.
That's right. Marcus is in the house. Hello. Oh, parking at Publix is a pain. Our guest today is Joe Sontag, the creator of Reaper Destroyer. So we're going to talk to him about his career in comics, his new campaign, and fun stuff like that. So without further ado, we'll bring on Dennis's arch nemesis because Dennis is a Packers fan and Joe likes the Bears.
Yeah, we just realized
perfect, but welcome anyway.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we just realized that we're mortal enemies just a second ago. So, so this would be an interesting show. Yeah.
Well, you know, you guys could come around and like the Cowboys and be on the winning side.
No. Neither one of us is that dumb.
Yeah. I don't think that'll ever happen. Sorry.
Yeah, I'd root for the Bears first.
You would not.
I would. Well, assuming that the Packers have already clinched, their first seed again, then it wouldn't really matter. But I would definitely root for the Bears before the Cowboys.
So you're telling me?
Yep.
In the playoffs, it came down to the Bears and the boys. Knowing who I am, you would root for the Bears?
Oh, without even a second question.
God damn.
Yeah, after all the crap I put up with you the last couple of years in football, absolutely.
Wow. That is harsh. Hyper says at least we can all agree to shit on the Vikings.
That we can. Yep.
There you go.
No arguments there.
That's right. How's the day going so far, Joe?
Pretty good. Just got home not too long ago. You know what's funny is down here, usually I got bad circulation down here in the studio because I'm down in the basement. So no matter what, it's usually pretty cold down here. Today, it's actually hot. Oddly enough, it's cold outside, and in the basement, it's actually kind of warm. So that's interesting.
So is your basement the type where it's totally under, so no windows or anything? Or
I got a couple of egress windows, you know, so it's probably about a foot off above the ground, but for the most part, we're pretty much completely underground down here. And like I said, during the summer, it's great down here because it's nice and cool. But during the winter, the heat doesn't circulate as well down here for some odd reason. So it's still cool during the winter. So I got like a heater over there. Every once in a while, I'll run. I'll be drawing, and my hand will be like so cold. I'll be like,
that's because heat rises, man.
And you're in that part of the country where we have basements.
Yes.
Unlike us.
Good basements.
There's very few basements out here.
Really?
North Carolina doesn't usually, the farther south you go, the basements go bye-bye. So
fun fact, only 15% of the houses in Charlotte have basements.
Eric says Cowboys are the least liked team in the NFL. I'll root for the Lions, but God damn.
Well, everybody kind of roots for the Lions because there's so much pity year after year after year. Yeah. Did I not root for Stafford in the Super Bowl?
So did I.
Why? Because after seeing him beat up year after year, and Bud Root would agree with me on this, He needed a win, so go to the Rams.
I did the same thing. I live here in Michigan. I'm a Bears fan, but I live here in Michigan, so I've grown up amongst Lions fans my entire life. So all my friends are fans of the Lions. So I naturally will pay attention to the Lions just so I can, talk to them about the team. And I don't dislike the Lions as much as I dislike the Packers and the Vikings. Like, I have a hate for those two teams. The Lions is more of like a pity, like I want them to succeed because they're just never good. So like when Stafford actually went to LA, I was just like, all right, like he's a good dude. I always liked his talent. I was like, I'm going to root for him to win a Super Bowl. And when he got to the Super Bowl, I was like, that's the team I'm pulling for.
Yep.
It was good to see him win one for sure.
Yep, me too. Hyper says poor Barry Sanders. And you know what? Barry Sanders, even though I'm a Packers fan, he is my all-time favorite running back. Just hands down my all-time favorite out of any era.
He's my second favorite running back, but definitely talented.
Who's your first?
Oh,
Walter Payton?
I mean, come on now.
Come on now.
Sweetness, baby. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta go with sweetness.
I do like Walter Payton.
I do too. I actually do too. But,
I do like Walter
but I like
Payton.
Barry Sanders. I actually went out and got the action pack 24 karat Barry Sanders gold card just because he was that good and he was always on a shitty team. Except I did go to the Packer Lions game when we played him in the playoffs and we held Barry Sanders to negative yards rushing. That was kind of my Super Bowl that year.
Yeah. Barry was the man. He was fun to watch.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's just amazing how, and we'll get off football talk in a second. It's just amazing how Stafford goes to LA, Goff comes to Detroit, and Detroit still sucks. It's just like
it's a stigma. It's a stigma that they have to break at some point, just like the Bengals. The Bengals sucked for forever, and then boom, now they were in the Super Bowl last year.
You can't even blame Matt Millen for this.
Right? Yeah. It's one of those things, man. There's some teams in the NFL that are just, until they get over that hump, they figure it out, they're just gonna be bottom dwellers. And there's gonna be teams like the Bears that are always in the medium. You always have hope, and then they always let you down. And then you got the fucking team like the Packers. Hope. Yeah, well, then you got the stupid Packers and the Patriots and all of them. They're always up here, and you're always like, I got to assume that Packer fans don't know how good they have it. So I'm hoping one day, man, that the Packers are a bad team, and you realize how the rest of us feel.
When we were a 500 team. We were always a 500 team. We might not make the playoffs. Lynn Dickey, he was a great quarterback, couldn't move, but he could throw. If you gave him all day, he could hit anything. But so, it wasn't until Reggie White. That was the turning point for the Green Bay Packers.
Yep, that was Favre, and then White came along, solidified that defense, and then you guys have had pretty much 30 some odd years of pretty much being in the top tier. I mean, I don't know what that's like. I honestly don't. I can't even imagine what that's like.
I know we have been a bit spoiled, but most of us don't take it for granted. We thought, well, we're losing Rodgers. Love's not our answer, so we're going to have a really crappy year if he doesn't come back. Oh, he's back.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and we'll see.
We got 4 more years, maybe. Maybe
we'll see. We'll see what they do with Love, because that dude, was he going to ride the bench for 4 years? I mean, can't trade him for anything because he hasn't done anything in the league. He's definitely not the answer.
Exactly. So we will see. Well, one other thing, I guess we should finish off on football and jump right in. So one of the questions I like to ask for all of our viewers who either watch it live or will watch it later, your origin story. How did you get involved into comic books, and how did this take off?
Well, might not be as exciting as most. I was always one of those dream chasers, try hard guys that never made it into the industry. But I started drawing when I was 8 years old. I always had a love for drawing. When I discovered comics, it was one of those things that kind of changed my life and aspirations. When I started seeing like that kind of style of art. And I had a friend at the time that was a really good artist, just naturally. He was about a year older than me. His name was also Joe, by the way, which was kind of cool. And he kind of showed me the ropes on how to draw better, because I would just doodle. I like to doodle, but he actually showed me how to draw like structure and whatnot. he ended up actually deciding he didn't want to do comics anymore, or he didn't want to collect comics anymore. He didn't want to draw that style, and he started doing more like Looney Tune stuff, which was cool. You know, he was okay at that, and I just kept on going because I found a love and a passion for that medium. And from that point on, I knew that I wanted to be a comic book artist at some point in my life, and I would just spend hours and hours a day at my drawing table. You know, my mom would come in and have to kick me outside because it's nice and sunny outside. You know, and I'm just sitting in there, you know, in my room, just drawing away.
Yeah.
But she was always a really great supporter of mine too. So, but yeah, it was, I made it to adulthood, and decided it was time to, start submitting my art and going to conventions. Conventions were weird. It was one of those things I knew about. I just never really went to. I mean, we didn't grow up the most well-off family, so we didn't have opportunities to go places like that and to spend money on tickets or a hotel to, to experience that. So I only went to like one convention when I was a kid, which was really cool. But when I got into like my early 20s, I started going to conventions myself and taking my art around, showing other artists, talking to asshole editors, all that kind of stuff. And it was something that I was really, really excited about. And really, I remember the first guy I ever showed my work to was Norm Brayfogle.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, rest in peace. But he was so cool with me. And I was like, I mean, at the time, man, I might have been like 20, 21, something like that, maybe just early 20s. And he was so cool. Like, he sat down and went over my entire portfolio and just kind of gave me tips and gave me a lot of encouragement, which it was a big thing to have that dude say, like, you're on the right track, you got some natural talent, keep it up. I remember one thing he had said to me was that he's like, if you keep working at this, he's like, you're going to be a really, really talented artist one day. And I remember leaving his table thinking like, wow, like that was very motivational, very cool. And I did that for a couple years, and I always seem to get the same kind of feedback from artists. When I started graduating and showing my work to editors, it was a completely different thing.
Really?
Oh yeah. Once I started showing my stuff to editors, and I only did a few of them, but they were just like no positive whatsoever. I remember I showed him, it was a Dark Horse editor. I can't remember his name, but I caught him. Maybe it was on a bad day. I don't know. But he looked through my work, and I'd just gone through most of the afternoon with nothing but compliments and encouragements from these artists and stuff. And I went to this dude and he's flipping through it. I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, this is good. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling confident. This guy's going to look at my stuff and say like, yeah, who knows what he's going to say. And he's silent. And he's like, yeah, you shouldn't be showing this to anybody. He's like, you're not even ready to show your art to anybody. He's like, you see this face here? Like, this face is horrible. Like, and he just started tearing my art apart, and nothing positive. Handed the portfolio back to me. Didn't say anything like, hey, come back in 6 months or whatever. It was just that, and I was just like crushed, and absolutely just crushed. So I decided to do my own book. After that, it was motivating to just do my own thing. And that was the first time I actually, cooked up the idea of Reaper Destroyer, which I brought back now and working on now. But back then, I was really motivated. I didn't know how to make a comic book. I wasn't a writer. I was just an artist with a concept. So I did my best. I put out an ash can, went to a convention, sold a number of copies. I think I sold like 50 copies of that book. It was a preview book, a 12-page black and white preview book. Yeah. And that was good. That was motivating. That was when I first met Sean, who's my co-host on Hot and Stuff. Mm-hmm. And he was a big motivator back then too, and really pushing me forward. Unfortunately, right around that time, my personal life kind of went in a bad direction, and I stepped away from comics. I stepped away from everything. Ended up going into the direction of music, and I spent about 10 years in a band, independent band, touring the country and just doing that.
Oh, and I mean, that sounds pretty cool.
It was cool. I got no regrets for that. I mean, it was super fun time in my life. I met a lot of awesome people, partied with rock stars, just got to live that life. It was fun. It was fun. It was very fun.
What do you play?
I was the vocalist in the band.
Oh, the vocalist. Okay.
Yeah, I play the guitar and the bass as well, but like in the band, I was the vocalist. I had way more talented musicians around me than I was. So that was great though. I had a blast doing that. And, I did all the art for the band. I made all the t-shirts and the album covers and everything. So I still, kept the hold of like the artistic feel. And I always knew one day that, of course, at that point I was like, I'm going to retire sometime, like, when I'm 45, 50, after the music career is done and I've been a success. And I was like, I'll go back and, tackle drawing comics then, but, around 35 or so, I started settling down, plans to get married, want to have a family. And it just wasn't the life that I wanted to lead while, trying to raise a kid.
Sure.
It wasn't indicative of a lifestyle that would be a success. So I came back to comics, and I started refreshing my skills and getting back into it. And I tried to at first to, go back into the whole submitting your stuff. Let's get my portfolio together, start sending stuff out. I was planning on going back to the convention scene and doing the whole thing over again like I did before. The problem was that when I came back to the comic book world, a lot had changed. The industry had changed quite a bit. It wasn't the industry that I remember it being, that I grew up in the 90s absolutely loving, or just even the early 2000s when it was still kind of stuff was going on that was exciting. There was still a lot of good stuff happening in the early 2000s. Now it was all different. A lot of politics, a lot of stuff that we all know about was in the industry. And it absolutely wasn't the same at all. And Sean was one of the ones that really pushed me into, he's like, do your own book again, man. He's like, the indie scene right now is really good. There's a lot of creators out there. They're doing this thing called crowdfunding. He was telling me about Comicsgate and like all this kind of stuff. So I dusted off Reaper Destroyer, spent 2 years retooling it, while I was trying to also get my art back to a point where I thought it needed to be to actually draw a book and put it out there for people. And finally, got it going and, got into this community movement, whatever you want to call it, that is Comicsgate. And here we are, 2022. I'm getting ready to launch Reaper Destroyer for the second time, but hopefully the more successful time of the two. So
what year did you originally do your ash can?
2007 is when I put it out.
Okay.
Yep. And I just printed out a bunch of copies through Kinko's. I didn't even know what printing was back then, as far as like where to go to get a book printed. So I just went to my like local Kinko's and got it printed out, and they did a pretty decent job with it, and it was interesting. And like I said, I sold like 50 copies of it, and that was fun. I always the cool thing was throughout my music career, I always had that to kind of look back on, and a lot of people didn't know that side of my life because they met me through the music scene, so nobody knew I had like this artistic kind of comic book feel. And every once in a while I'd pull it out and show people, and they always thought that was pretty cool. I was like, yeah, maybe one day I'll do it again.
Yeah, nice. 15 years.
Yeah, that's cool. I dated a gal who had Kinkles once. Yeah, I mean, we all have.
Well, Webster just got a new word added to maybe the Urban Dictionary.
That's right, the Urban Dictionary. Added to it. We'll add this. This is the sign-up page. Hyper Kaiju was nice enough to post the link in the chat. The link should be in the description below as well, so you can see it there. If you want to tell us a little bit about, if you want to play the video, obviously it's.
Let me play this real quick. So this is just a teaser trailer. And I'll kind of talk about the team I've got on the book a little bit after this, but this is just a teaser trailer.
Dude, that trailer looks good. Did you do that?
I did actually. It's I did a little bit of a cheat. Like it's a good trailer, but it was already set up through what is that program on your iPad? It's like iMovie or something.
Yeah.
So it's just a easy way of taking a format and then just kind of putting the trailer together, So I thought it worked for the teaser trailer because what I had up there was it was okay, but it didn't look as good. So I wanted something that looked a little bit better. So yeah, I put that together, and there was actually another program I used that had better special effects. I put it through, I think, like 3 different editing programs to actually, come up with it. But it serves a purpose. I thought it came out pretty good. I'm thinking about like
That's
actually
cool.
enlisting somebody to actually make the trailer for the actual campaign when it goes. Like, I know there's a bunch of really talented people out there that make trailers for a lot of people.
Well, I mean, besides, even though a lot of it was in black and white, I thought it kind of fit the overall feel of it. I don't know. I had somebody make mine, but I thought it looked good.
I did too. I mean, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, hey, I already know I'm kind of down for stuff like this. I love those kind of tales. So give us a little bit of history. Who and what is Reaper Destroyer?
So Reaper Destroyer, and I don't think anybody is in here that read the original books, so I don't think I really need to say.
Actually,
Eric did.
Eric said, "I'm looking forward to the book. I've got the ash can and immediately love the art, style, and story." So you got one of the 50 apparently.
Well, so Eric, I just recently did a ash can for this campaign.
Right.
So he got that one. But the original one, I don't think there's anybody that knows me that actually has that. But I'll just say that I retooled that story. So I mean, that's a completely different story than what it is now. And by the way, Eric does a lot of great comic book reviews on his channel. So he's been a big supporter since he got that book. Did a really good review on his channel with it, and he actually really got the book, and I was impressed with that, and actually pleased that what I was putting out there was actually being reciprocated pretty well. But Reaper Destroyer follows our protagonist, Matthew Walker, who is basically woke up and he's found himself imprisoned in this supernatural suit of armor. Acts like a prison. He's trapped in there with the ancient spirit of death, who has been trying to possess his soul now for about 9 months. They basically have to form an uneasy alliance to fight this brand new ancient evil that is coming on the earth, and they happen to be the only weapon that can defeat it. It's a dark history or dark superhero story, kind of in the mold of The Darkness, Spawn, Moon Knight, like all those 90s characters that I grew up loving, and it's the tagline I have on here and was, when an uneasy alliance is formed to fight an ancient evil, a dark hero is born. I really wanted to bring a dark superhero back. Not that they don't exist anymore, because they do. There's lots of dark heroes out there, but not in the way that I remember them being when comics were great, And that was one of my goals with this book, is to really artistically wise and story feel, bring a nice sci-fi kind of thrill ride adventure with the book. And it's got a rich history as far as the story, goes back to the dawn of time. And, I've said this before, like I've been big fans of writers like Tolkien, or any of these guys. I can never remember his name, but the dude that wrote Game of Thrones.
George
Martin. Yeah. Any of these guys that can really, put a history together, a world history, So I formed this entire world history based more, that's more fantasy what they do. And I base this kind of more into like real history and just tied it in with a story, but just going back to the dawn of time and to now. So it's got a really fun history to really dive in and explore for years to come in the issues that I do. This is a 4-issue series. Originally was 6, but I started increasing the page count when I got into crowdfunding, because originally it was supposed to be a 22-page book. Because the original idea was to make a book, pitch it to Image, right? Like that's always somebody's dream. Pitch it to Image, get it picked up. And when I got into crowdfunding, I noticed a lot of the books were a lot bigger than 22 pages. So I started kind of combining stuff. So it was originally 6 issues. Now it's down to 4. But yeah, we're launching the first issue May 14th.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's very cool. I think it looks pretty cool. Tell us about your team working with you.
So I have amassed as much talent as I could possibly find in this book. And me being the person I am, I grew up, idolizing, Mark Silvestri and Jim Lee and all these guys from Image. And of course, when you see those guys on paper, you always see the guys that they worked with that inked them. Specifically with Top Cow with Silvestri, I always saw guys like Bat and Joe Weems. And I went out and approached those guys when I first started doing this book, and asked them to get on board with the book and send them my art samples, and we talked back and forth, and I got both those guys to come on board and ink my work. So the art on this book is by me. The inks are by Joe Weems and Matt Bat Banning.
Cool.
And I also got Kyle Ritter is going to be doing the colors of this book as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I just got Kyle on board about a month ago, because I had an original colorist. And one of the reasons why you see primarily black and white pages in the trailer and on this page is the original colors for the book I had to let go. We just had to part ways. Nothing major, nothing drama, nothing bad, just stuff happens, Sure. So I wasn't able to actually get work done by him. So I ended up going and recruiting Kyle, and same thing. I just kind of showed him my work. We'd been talking for a little bit about doing commissions anyway for a while, and I got him on board, and that blew me away, because I've been a fan of Kyle's for a long time now. It's just phenomenal, when it comes to his art, just in everything he does. So yeah, like I really went out and tried to get the best team that I could put together, because my goal with this book is to put a professional quality book out. I want this to have the feel and the look that you picked it up right off the shelf at your local comic book store. Like it could be sitting there right next to everything else, and that was really important to me. It's just been a motivation of mine to put out the absolute best work that I can do. And the only way to do that is to get talented people to work with you,
Yeah, no, I totally get it. Dude, that's awesome. Kyle's fantastic.
He is.
Joe actually 20 years ago or so, I just did a drawing of Witchblade for fun.
Oh, nice.
Sent it to Joe, and he inked it for me. I probably still have it back in my closet.
Dude, that's awesome.
But Joe's great. Yeah.
Cool.
Joe, and Matt too. Banning is Bat is also really good. So I mean, you surround yourself in good company. That's my hope with this podcast one day, is to surround myself in good company. Until then,
I was waiting for you to say it, but
until then,
I consider myself very blessed, very lucky to be working with the guys I'm working with on the book, and I definitely don't take that for granted. I never thought it would be the day would happen when I'd even be able to work with guys like Joe Weems or Bat. Like these are guys that literally, when I was a young teenager, I grew up just idolizing their work, and never thought one day that I would actually be working with them on a project. So this is a dream project, right? Like a lot of people say, working on your book, it's a dream project, but this honestly to me is an absolute dream project, because I'm working with guys I never thought I'd get a chance to. I am amazed every single time I get something back from them, because they actually really they do a great job with my art. And I say this because, as an artist, sometimes there are inkers out there, whether they are professional or, independent, that could bury your art, depending on how they ink you, And I was worried a little bit that when I first started, even though I knew that they were fantastic, that my work would come back and I wouldn't be able to see me, as much as I would see them. And because they are amazing inkers, amazing, embellishers, finishers, they do a great job of capturing what I drew, as well as adding their flavor and bringing it all together. So every time I look at a page, I'm just amazed. I'm just like, this is like, it's the best I've ever looked, but I can still look at it and see myself reflected in it. And it's just working with professional inkers I never thought I'd get a chance to do. And it blows me away. Like these guys are absolutely amazing in what they do, and the fact that they they inked over guys like Silvestri and Weems, or Silvestri and Turner and Finch, and now they're inking over me. Like that's just, I mean, you want to talk about humbling feeling, or just, like, man, what did I luck into to get that? Like that's just insane.
No, I know exactly, dude. I know exactly what you mean. Guys that I looked at, in the 80s when I was a teenager and stuff. And then after I became a professional, being able to actually work with them, it is. It really is a dream come true. So I totally get, where you're coming from. Joe Bernardo in the house. Aloha.
Aloha.
Sorry you're late. We'll let it go this time.
It's fine. As long as you're here, you can always go back and watch.
That's true. That is true. So what else you get? You got anything else you want to show us?
Yeah, let me pull up.
Here, I'll just do this while you do that.
Yeah, let me pull up some actual pages here that I can get into.
Yeah,
and
man.
show you
So
guys.
is Joe inking? Are you sending him original pencils, or is he blue lining, or what's he doing?
So what I'm doing is both Weems and Bat are inking over my original pencils.
Nice.
Yeah, and it was, I always thought it'd be like blue line because that's how everybody works. I've worked with inkers in the past where that was it. Just send them the file, they'll print it out.
Yeah.
So everybody's got their originals. But when I first started talking to Weems specifically, he said he just preferred, inking over the original pencils.
Mm-hmm.
And I was fine with that. Yeah, I'm actually somebody that's very iffy with an inker doing that, but because of my love and respect for these guys, I was like, absolutely, here you go, do it, do it up, because one, that means that I will get their original inks back as well. So it's the best of both worlds for me that I'm getting some of my favorite inkers work in hand originals, over my work. So I was all about it. I was like, yeah, take it, let's do it. So yeah, which I think it's turned out pretty well.
I mean, I'm the same way, but a lot of it for me is, I got in the business in 91 before there was blue lining and all that stuff. It was always, you draw it, you FedEx it to the office, they send it out to the inker, to the letterer, because it was back when everything was lettered on the boards. So that's what I've always been used to. The few jobs I've done where the editor's like, for time's sake, just scan it, send it to the inker. I'm like, all right. I mean, I'm not, I've only done 2 or 3 jobs that way. And I'm not a fan of it. I mean, yeah, I get to hold on to all, 20, 22 pages of my art, but I'd rather split the art with the inker because then I get some of the pages back with their inks on it, and I'd rather have that than have a whole issue of my pencils. So,
yeah, one thing I thought was really cool, and this was actually, I have to give a shout out to listening to Rob Liefeld's podcast, Rob Servations.
Yeah.
He had a couple episodes where he just talked about the relationship between a penciler and an inker. And even though I always I respected inkers, when he really dove into what a good inker can do to even a great artist, it really made me think like, I want to work with the best inker I can find. And because of that, I want their work in hand, because I don't want to just send it off to Weems. When he brought it up, I was like, yeah, that's great. Because I don't want to just send my work off to you. You print it out and I never see your stuff in person. Like this way, I'm going to get the pages back and see it in person. And, I can't wait for that day. Like it's going to be.
It's great because you can look at it. You can really see the line work they did. And from a standpoint where I've inked over people, doing the blue line thing, it is harder because, when you're inking over real pencils, you can see the difference in the, in the gradations of the gray of the pencil. Yeah. But when you print it out in blue, all that goes away. So it's actually, depending on the penciler, it actually can be harder to ink on a blue line because subtleties are gone.
Oh, that's a good point.
But when you're inking over the original pencil, you can definitely go, oh, that light line is definitely a sketch line compared to the darker line that's like over top and maybe over a little bit where the penciler was refining it a little bit more. So I'd rather ink over original pencils. I don't like doing blue lines. So
it looks better too.
If you're going to be selling any of those pages, are they going to campaign?
Yeah, I think I've decided to sell a limited amount of the pages when the campaign launches. I might maybe like 10 or so.
Yeah,
and the original, I had to be talked into this too. Like somebody that I really respect when it came to setting up a campaign kind of mentioned that it's extra money that can go into the campaign that you bring in. because I was really dead set on like keeping every single page of this book because it's my first book, like essentially it's going to be my first book. And, you got those guys putting their work on. And I was like, I don't want to part with that. Like I want to keep it. I want to put it in my collection. I want to have it. So, somebody convinced me. They're like, well, you don't have to sell them all. You can put it up like in a limited amount, pick good pages, but put a limited amount up there for sale. So I definitely think I'm going to do that, but they're going to be up there in price because one thing I told Sean.
Well, yeah. I don't sell anything. So, the only way to get original stuff from me is either con sketches or, if you back the tier of my campaign where I'm doing original sketch, either head or full figure. But when it comes to the actual comic book stuff, I've always been in the mindset of, I've already been paid for it. I'd rather just keep it.
Right. Yeah.
And I even asked the inkers I've worked with, I've said, look, if you do decide to sell your pages at some point, let me know first.
Right.
And, so far, the last guy I worked with was Trevor Scott.
Oh,
and
nice.
He's fantastic.
Yeah.
But none of the stuff we did together is out there because I kept all mine.
Oh, he never sold his?
He hasn't sold any of his.
Oh, nice.
So,
well, yeah, because that's the same thing. And I told both Weems and Bat, I was like, when the book's done and we go through, like, if anybody doesn't know, traditionally what you do is you do a 1/3, 2/3 split of the book between artist and inker. So when we go through all that and we figure out who's going to have what, I told them, like, I want first option to buy the pages back. If you don't sell them right away or don't put them up for sale, just hold on to them for a second because I would like to buy them back. I would like all the pages of this book. So I think that's something that everybody agreed upon and that I'm going to do. So eventually I will have every single page. So, it's going to be a 32 to 40 page book. So there's going to be, I guess that made it okay. Like, all right. I can put stuff up to sale. I'll still have plenty of pages, even if they're boring pages. I'll still have plenty of pages to have in my collection, and I guess I'll do it. But they're going to be pricey because for me to part with these pages, you're going to definitely have to want them, so if you want them, you're going to pay for them. That's great. And I'll definitely do it. But if nobody buys them, I'll gladly keep them.
Yeah, no, I mean, I used to take, because I don't sell my stuff, I used to take a portfolio of pages to a convention, and everything in that portfolio was priced really high because I thought, I don't like selling my stuff, but I also don't like sitting at the table and not having anything in front of me. Fine, I'll take this portfolio of pages.
Yeah.
I'm just going to price them to a point where if they do buy them, it's going to sting a little, but, it was worth it. And it has happened. I sold a couple covers and a couple interiors. And I got to be honest, I had the cash in hand and they're walking off. And I'm like, oh, just a little bit higher might have scared them away.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Of course, my wife is like, shut your mouth, give me the money.
Right. Yeah. It's, it's like giving up something, is very precious to you. So it's like, you might be getting the money for it, but in the same aspect, it still hurts a little bit to see it go. It
does. I mean, if I've got to give up a page or one of Dennis's testicles, Dennis is going to be a one-nut wonder. That's just the way it goes. And he's agreed to that.
But that's
awesome.
Testicles go for way more.
That's what friends do. Eric said, what do you consider as pricey? I don't want to say just yet. I'll reveal that.
Yeah, I'd save that for the campaign. Because you got to put some real thought into it. I mean, we can jokingly go back and forth, but it is real personal. It's hard, for an artist to sell stuff, and you do need to put a lot of thought into it. So just stay on the lookout, Eric. Randy wants to know if we can hear a little more about villains.
Oh yeah, there you go. So the Reaper Destroyer, as far as anybody that read the Ash Can, Eric will definitely know this. I introduced a character named Victor Reigns. He is set up as the main antagonist of the story, although that there is a bigger villain that we will get to, called Vanessa, who is just a badass villain. But Victor is one of the oldest human beings on Earth. He's actually part of an immortal race called the Elder Sons. Now, this race
Oh, cool.
is the original inhabitants of the world. So the way this world works is before modern humans, before like the race of Adam, so to speak, was created. The original creation of the world had these elder sons ruled ruled the world, and they were the height of intelligence and engineering and everything. They built everything on this earth that is a wonder. You know, the pyramids, all the stuff that, you know, ancient aliens say that aliens built because modern humans couldn't do it. That's what these guys did. They're responsible for making cities like Atlantis and El Dorado and all that kind of stuff.
Cool.
Back in the day, I'm gonna go into a little bit of a dissertation here with this with this answer. But back in the day, their civilization used to wage war on each other by ways of using this being, this spirit called the Reaper Destroyer. It was a weapon for them. They were able to summon this spirit every 1,000 years. Now everybody would get together in their separate, you know, kingdoms or empires or whatever, and they would run their rituals to try to summon the spirit. And the spirit would come, but it was never designed on, it was never designated exactly where it would go. It would just randomly pop up with whoever it would do. But it would have to go to a child of one of the royal families, royal bloods, and they would be possessed, and they would be endowed with the power of the Reaper Destroyer. Whoever owned that all of a sudden had an upper hand on everybody else in the world. And usually they would wage war because that's what they did. They wanted power, they wanted to conquer, they wanted to rule, and this would give them a way to do it. It was a way to do war without having massive armies involved, where there was a lot of death. You know, when whoever had this power, the others had the ability, if they wanted to, you know, fight against it, which most likely they lose because this was near cosmic level power, or they could just surrender and become, you know, subservient to the ruling class of people that had that power. So every 1,000 years, this would happen again and again and again. Randomly, somebody would rise to power, take over, and the cycle would start again. One day, the Reaper Destroyer disappeared. It wasn't able to be summoned anymore, and they had to go about more, you know, conventional means of fighting each other, more boots on the ground, weapons, all that kind of stuff. And eventually, they wiped out their entire civilization through nuclear war, you know, all that kind of stuff. And they had to retreat into the mountains and stuff in the earth just to disappear, because the race of Adam was now created and was starting to rise up. And so they retreated because they were worried that they no longer had this technology or this power to rule. Well, what ended up happening is when the race of Adam started to build civilizations on the earth and become more expanded, they came out from their hiding and they realized that they shared a similar look to normal human beings, and they mingled amongst them. They ended up realizing that because they were different from human beings, they actually had powers, not necessarily superhero powers like you would say, like for like metahumans or whatever, but they had abilities that normal humans didn't have, you know, strength, speed, whatever. And they were able to use that and pose as gods. And so early humans would worship them as gods. They became the pantheons of gods, of the mythological, Zeus and all of them and everything. After the flood, I'm sorry if this is getting a little biblical to anybody.
No, go ahead.
Like, there's just the way I put this together, it follows kind of a, this isn't a religious book, but it definitely follows kind of like a religious path and the way that I'm putting the story together. So there's a lot of biblical stuff that's in the storyline. So after the flood happened and everybody got wiped out, they came back again. Instead of posing this time as gods and superheroes or whatever, they posed as the leaders, the emperors, the pharaohs, and all that kind of stuff. Their goal was always to rule the human race behind the scenes, because there was so little of the elder sons left that they couldn't just conquer anybody. So what they did is they basically took over everything. They guided the course of history. They became the secret societies, if you want to call it, the Illuminati kind of figures that behind the scenes would pull the strings and form history. And they would, in that way, amass power and riches and all that kind of stuff. Throughout this entire time, they always continued to try to do the ritual every 1,000 years, and still they were never able to get the Reaper Destroyer back. Well, all of a sudden, nowadays, a new Reaper Destroyer has just popped up, and no one knows why or the reason, who it's there for. It's kind of almost like a free agent. So there is this race between the immortal races to obtain this power. So Victor Range is the ruler basically of the Western world, and his main competition is the Osaka family, which is an ancient family that established Japan, and they are the rulers, so to speak, of the Eastern world. They have a civil war. They fight back and forth amongst one another. Victor's main goal, though, is to reestablish the dominance of the elder sons. And through what he's trying to do, which I can't say too much because I want to give away the actual actual book.
Oh, yeah.
I start talking about the plot, and my main thing is like I just want to tell you all about the story. So
right,
I gotta hold back a little bit.
Dude, I totally get it.
I gotta hold back a little bit, or I'm going to tell you everything that happens in issue 1, and then no one's going to want to buy the book.
Yeah, no, I get it.
No, we'll buy 2 copies.
Yeah.
I mean, it's twofold because so far I'm like, that sounds really cool. But I get what you're saying.
I love this. So I'm a role player. So, I mean, for me, everything doesn't matter if it's my own world that I've created or Forgotten Realms.
Nobody wants to hear about your love life, Dennis, in your little maid outfit. Jesus.
No, that's cosplaying. That's your end of it. No, it's all about world building. So the fact that all of this thought goes into, so I was really excited about your book, just so you know, because I mean, the trailer looked great. Everything looked cool. But what you just sat there and put out there, I actually can't wait. I really want this because I'm a world builder, and you've just put a whole bunch of incredibly interesting thought behind this. I really want to see this world that you've created, because you've got it up here, you've got it down here, but now I can't wait to see it on actual comic pages.
Well, and like I said, like the guys I admire, like Tolkien and all of them, like they had like these big histories of their characters going back to whenever, generations on down, and I did my best to create the same thing, so that there would be wealths of stories and characters you could always dive into, and times and whatever you could explore, but everything would have a modern day feel to it, and the threat is in the modern day. The way I like to describe Victor, he's kind of like a cross between the Kingpin and Hannibal Lecter without the cannibalism, but just a very smart, always 2 steps ahead of everybody with his planning, kind of figure, and he's the Kingpin of the story, so to speak.
Sure.
The other main character I will tell you about, because I've talked about her before, is Vanessa. Vanessa is one of the original characters to ever wield the power of the Reaper Destroyer. Because the Reaper Destroyer could be summoned, you could possess male or female, it didn't matter. It just had to be a child of the royal family. That's all it had to be. So she was actually one of the first people to actually wield it, and she's one of the oldest and most powerful of the elder sons, going back to the dawn of time. She is very evil, wants nothing to do except destroy, murder, kill. She's a very sexually driven character as well, like pretty much debauchery. She's a very debaucherous character, like everything you might think of in a character when it comes to that. That's what she is. She is the main threat of the book, and how she ties into Victor, we will see in issue 1, and how she ties into Matt, who is now the possessor of the Reaper Destroyer. We will also see how they all kind of interline in issue 1. But those are the two main bad guys of the first story arc. But there's quite a bit of villains in this world that you're going to see years down the line. But it's going to start out with these two big bads right off the bat.
Yeah, Joe says the detail of your thoughts is what I think makes the worlds we write feel more real by crafting the details. It's totally true. I mean, you put that much thought into it, that much backstory, it just builds up around, and really you can immerse yourself in it. So
yeah, Randy mentioned that. He even said world building is the key to building any kind of a franchise, and he's absolutely right. The world building is the key to it. If you've got a good platform, a good basis, a good world that you've created, and things make sense,
right?
People are going to like everything that you put into it. That's why so many of us buy lots of. I'm still doing X-Men. I'm still doing Forgotten Realms. They built it, and we love it, even when they piss us off once in a while.
Yeah,
I had a lot of. My thing is, like, I love doing the backstories of characters. So I will spend, detailed amounts of time with each character, who their parents were, what happened to them as a kid,
Right.
like all this kind of stuff, what might shape them into the adult that they are, or put them on the path in life where they're going.
Sure.
So I did the same thing when it came to the world building, and with me, because of the religious tones on it. I'm a Christian. I grew up a Christian, and
Sure.
there's a lot of. I'm also a big conspiracy buff. I'm a big into conspiracies. They're just fun to look into. Well, there's a lot of religious conspiracies as well. And when I started looking into them, I was just like, some of this stuff would make such a great story. Like if you tied it together and put this together, there would be really cool stories that you could build out of. So I formed an entire history just based off of different conspiracies and different elements of stuff that I knew growing up and learning, to craft this entire story of this race, of this being. The ancient spirit of death is basically what inhabits somebody and becomes the Reaper Destroyer. It's a combination of spirit and man, or spirit and woman, doesn't matter, but a spirit and a human that creates this character. What's interesting about the new character that Matt has power over right now is that he is not an elder son. He's not somebody of that lineage, of that bloodline. So there's a real confusion about why the spirit would pick him, because it's only ever picked the elder sons because they have the ability to handle the spirit. So there's a mystery in there of why that's happening. The suit of armor that you see that we have him in is, like I said before, it really acts like a prison. He can't escape it. So a lot of this book, you're going to see him mainly in the suit. You're only ever going to see him outside of the suit when we do kind of flashbacks or nightmare scenes, so it's a prison. It's something he doesn't want to be. This is not a superhero book where you get powers and all of a sudden you want to become a superhero. You want to do good stuff. It's very much an unwilling character in this book. The spirit of death, on the other hand, same thing. He's found himself in a situation where he can't escape this thing either. So they're both imprisoned in this thing together, and they start out as enemies because the spirit of death's main goal is to possess the shell and take over and do its will, do its work on the earth. And it can't do that either. So they're in constant struggles, constant fight for power amongst each other. I kind of described it the other day when I was on a channel of like a buddy cop. It's kind of like a buddy cop without the fun aspect of it. But I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, it really is kind of like a buddy cop story, because I got these two characters that, obviously will start out not liking each other, but will gain whatever they have to work together to actually accomplish what they need to accomplish, So maybe it's a little Lethal Weapon thrown in there too. I don't know.
Yeah, that's cool. So it was a joining between a human. You mean, and I was kind of picture, is it kind of like a Nephilim where you've got
kind of like that? Yep. Okay. So if anybody's familiar with the Nephilim, traditionally the Nephilim were fallen angels that mated with human women, and they created giants or other abominations on the earth. And you could really get in, like I said, you could get into any kind of conspiracy of what that was, which kind of really sparked the story. So instead of fallen angels, so to speak, I just replaced angels in my story with like the elder sons. You know?
Oh, that's cool.
And there's elements of that in the book that we'll kind of touch on as we go, of what were the elder sons doing for thousands and thousands of years when the modern human race arose as well. What were they doing, mingling with them? What happened when they mated with a regular human? All that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of stuff we can explore that will be in the book later on that we'll touch on as well. But yeah, it's definitely got some Nephilim kind of nature and feel to it. Yeah, for sure.
So I got a page up here on screen. That looks pretty cool. Can you blow up on some of the individual panels?
Let me see. So this is actually page 1 of the book.
Oh, nice.
Let's see. And this is one of the pages inked by Weems. He's inked most of the stuff so far. I brought Bad on later on. I've been working with him primarily right now. Joe's been really busy, and that's another one of those things. Like, I work with these guys and it's great, but they also still work in the industry, right? They still have a lot of jobs coming in.
Oh, sure.
So when Joe can't do something, that's why I have Bat. I just throw him a page. So it's been nice to have both of them on board in that aspect.
That's cool.
But this was one of the first pages he did and sent back to me, and I was just like, just blown away. He grabbed all my detail, and then he added, what a good inker is going to add to stuff, and it just came out so well.
That's cool.
So I took this philosophy that I read. Remember Hunter Killer, Mark Silvestri,
Yes,
and I think
it was
Mark Wade.
Sylvester and Wade.
Yeah, Wade. Yep. They put out a book that was like a behind the scenes book. It had like I think it had script in it. It had like their notes between each other going back and forth. It was like behind the scenes kind of book. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
But in that I read an article, read part of what Silvestri had said, and his philosophy was like always start out the book with some of an action scene to grab the reader.
Yep.
Something that really got you into the story right off the bat.
Yep.
So when I was developing the story, I had two different ways I could start the book. I could start like a long intro to build the story and then get into it, or I could start with an action scene. So I chose the action scene, and this is what I came up with. And this was actually kind of inspired by the beginning of The Matrix. In a way, where if anybody remembers The Matrix, it starts out with Trinity in that room, and all the cops are going to surround her, and she gets in this big fight, and that's just kind of how it starts, and we go from there. I wanted a kind of similar feel where we just kind of come into a scene that's already in progress, and we have to kind of slowly figure out what's going on by the characters talking, and how the story's unfolding.
Yep. No, I like starting stuff that way. I just think it's cool.
It is.
So that's cool, man.
Back up here.
It's a good first page.
Thank you. Yeah, it's something that I've this is actually one of the pages that I've liked all the pages that have come back, don't get me wrong, but
sure,
this page was a more traditional storytelling page. Like I really wanted to cram a lot into this page. You probably won't see me do another page very often where I have, I think, 8 panels in a page, because that's just not how I'm wired.
Sure.
But like I wanted to make sure that we really established what we were in the book before we went forward.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's cool. Makes sense. Very cool.
And it looks like May 14th, I think it was, that you're going to be going live.
Yeah, May 14th. Let me, if I can find one more page I want to share with you guys.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, May 14th, we are going live, and we're going to be on Michael I keep saying I'm going to be on Michael Bancroft's channel. And on May 14th, it's a Saturday show at 9 p.m. Eastern. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun Saturday. I'm going to stream on Ott and Stuff beforehand. We're going to go on to Michael Bancroft's show. Then we're going to go on CG Talks after that. It's going to be nice. A fun day. Yeah, but May 14th, 9 p.m. That's when
cool.
That's when we're launching.
Oh, that's cool. Nice layout.
So this is Bat. I wanted to show, because I wanted to just kind of show the difference.
Oh, yeah.
A Weem page and a Bat page. But this is I've been showing this off lately only on live streams, so you don't really get to see this anywhere on social media. So if you follow me on any streams I do live, you actually get to see this page. But this is actually part of the nightmare sequence that I'll have scenes throughout the book, because Matt deals with PTSD from the experience that turned him into the Reaper Destroyer. It was a very traumatic event. Cool. So we get flashbacks in the forms of nightmares that we'll see throughout the book, just kind of sprinkled in. And a lot of times with this character, he might just black out, and it could be hours, it could be days, it could be weeks. We don't know. And he'll just find himself in odd places because he just kind of disappears. When he disappears, he's in this nightmare sequence. And in the real world, the spirit has taken over his body and doing whatever he wants to do.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, he always goes, it's always a horrific scene. He always goes back to this horrific kind of nightmare scene. It's something that really traumatizes him and scares him and shit. So this is gonna be a fun I'm really excited, I'll say this, about drawing the nightmare sequence throughout the book, because there's some fun things we get to see and experience. And I really want to try to show like fear and emotion and stuff he goes through.
That's cool. Agent Cub wants to know, how many pages is the book?
I'm aiming for 32. I'm trying to push it to 40. Originally, like I said before, it was a 22 page format, because originally it was supposed to be like, the standard book that was pitched to, whatever independent company that would pick it up if they picked it up. When I got into crowdfunding, I changed that more pages. So what ended up happening is a lot of the stuff that I had plotted out for issue 1 had to be whittled out just to fit into that 22 page format. That I'm actually able now to go back in and add some of the scenes and some of the character moments that I wanted that we had to take out of issue 1. So I'm going to go back and do that, and should be, when it's all said and done, at least 32, if not 40 pages.
Nice. That's cool, brother. That's cool. Very nice, dude.
Yeah. Randy says, look at Andy Smith level trauma.
It says Bruce Banner.
Ah, I always get them intermixed. It's
that's right. Don't piss me off because I will fucking rage on you.
What I won't like you when you're angry? Is that what you were trying to say?
You don't like me now.
Yeah, you're
bastard.
But you're always angry.
Bastard.
Bastard. That's fun.
Well, Jude, thank you. We're going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, you got it. I think it looks great. I signed up for it back when you put out the mailing list.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I'm looking forward to it. I think it looks cool.
I am too. I can't wait. I hopefully I'll be able to make the May 14th kickoff with you guys because I'm going to be right there.
That'll be awesome. Appreciate it.
We on May 13th we're going to Arena Football. We just bought our tickets.
They still have Arena Football?
They do here.
No shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
We got center field. You can't call it 50.
We're on the 25-yard
line. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I actually short story.
Yeah, when I lived in Texas, we were season ticket holders, and it was a blast. And my kids got to go. They got to be on the field with the players. All the players signed the autographs. It was just such a good time. So really looking forward to it.
Yeah, my daughter's never been to a football game. She loves football.
Oh, yeah,
so she's very excited. So
I actually tried out for a arena football team here in Michigan back in 2002, I think. Yeah, I thought I could do it because I was athletic. I always wanted to play football. Yeah. I went there and got around the actual athletes that I thought I was comparable to, and it was kind of embarrassing. But I will say this on an individual drill, I almost had an interception on it because I was going for like defensive back, and I almost had an interception on an individual drill, except that I slipped because I had that damn field turf. It was just kind of new. And I was breaking on the ball because I cut inside this dude and I was tracking the ball. I was like, I got this. It's going to look great. It's going to be an interception. And I slipped and fell right on my face. And I was like, well, yep, that ends my day.
That ends it.
That'll do it all the time.
Going home.
Hey, I know the feeling. I was going to try out too. And I'm like, running back, wide receiver.
Water boy.
And they're like, oh, no, you have to run. Oh, run? Oh, yeah, no.
It's this run you speak of.
Yeah, I used to be a lineman, and that was too much.
I tried out as a holder for field goals, but that didn't work out.
Yeah. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it.
That's right. There you go. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Well, guys, we will be back maybe on Friday to go over new comics and stuff that came out this week. And we'll be back next week talking to Von Klaus about his campaign that is currently running. And Joe, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you for having me here. Really appreciate it.
It was fun,
guys.
brother. And
it was great. Glad you were able to make it.
And we'll leave everybody with this little ditty.
And then, Joe, hang on afterwards, and we'll chat with you after.
Bye, everybody.
Live long and prosper.
Yeah.